Well, good morning, guys. It's Joe again with formerly Fat Joe, and this is going to be my second episode. So in the first episode, I clipped together several videos that I had created while going through the surgery process. I hope everybody has seen that video, and I hope everybody liked it. By the way, if you can, give me a like and a subscribe if you would. It would really help me out. It helps to promote the video and make it available for more people as they're doing searches on YouTube. So this video is really going to cover pretty much the same period, but I'm going to do it kind of in a recap format and mention a lot of the things that I didn't mention the first time. Okay, things that maybe didn't come about until I kind of had a chance to go back and think about it, if you will. Okay, and I'm going to start from the pre-surgery process and more or less go up to the going back to work period. Okay, and by the way, I've got a whole bunch of notes here that we're going to just hustle through. So the first thing I want to mention is that for me, and I can only assume for most everybody, the process is going to be slow and arduous. Okay, if you want to just make up your mind, that's it, I want weight loss surgery, just give it to me now. Okay, there's an option for that. You can go to Mexico and have a surgery done. And I have a friend that did that, by the way, and maybe one of these days I'll even try to invite her on and kind of ask her a few questions about what it was like to go to Mexico. And for some people that's dandy and it works great. For me, myself, I had insurance. The problem is, oh my God, it took, let's say, approximately a year and a quarter, if not a year and a half, to go clear through the process from start to finish. I will do a complete other video on that at another time. So anyhow, just know that it took a long time. So the first thing I'd like to mention about the process, as I'm going through and filling out all sorts of documents, meeting my surgeon and talking with physical therapists and talking with my dietitians, of course I filled out all sorts of information about medical history. Okay, now if you guys remember, and I'll say it again, I had my surgery in December of 2020. Okay, but just prior to that, I want to say it was 1st of November in 2020, my mom went through a major medical issue. She had a blood clot in her leg behind her knee. All of a sudden, there was a huge question of, do I have a genetic predisposition to blood clot issues? I didn't mention that in the video before. So anyhow, so that was something that came up. Brought it to the attention of my surgeon. Of course, I was kind of tentative because I was going, at this point, I had already gotten the approval from my insurance. And so I was going, God, please tell me that this isn't going to kick me out of the system and I have to start over again. Luckily, no. The doctor just said, he says, you're young, you're relatively, I think I covered it in the last video. I wasn't the picture of health, but I was in decent shape. And he said, well, that's really easy. He says, we just prescribe you an essentially anticoagulant or an anti-clotting prescription. Unfortunately, it comes in injectable form. Okay, injections. So all of a sudden, I had to go pick up a prescription for 10 preloaded syringes from the pharmacy that I'd be using when I got done with the surgery. And I have to admit, through the entire recovery process, it was those injections. I don't want to say that it was difficult. It was far from difficult, but it was kind of the biggest pain in the rear that I had to deal with. And I didn't mention that before, so I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself here, but. The hardest thing with those stupid injections, they were a preloaded syringe in a dispenser or in a package, and I'd open them up, and they had, if you've ever seen them before, they were a two-piece syringe design. You pulled a plastic cap off, but when you pushed the plunger all the way down, it released a spring that would then pop the syringe open as a safety mechanism so that nobody could poke themselves with it afterwards. The problem I had, or the biggest problem I had, was learning how to correctly use the syringe. essentially use the syringe one-handed, because I had to, more or less pull up a fold of skin, stick it in, push it down, and let's put it this way, it had two little finger holds on it, but what I found was if I used the finger holds the way they were designed and pushed down, that it wouldn't pop the way it would. I found out that I actually held it incorrectly, if you will, held it sideways, pushed the plunger down, and then anyhow. The crazy thing was I was only given 10 of these, and by about the 9th one I was getting pretty good at doing it. So, I'd used them 10 times, just enough to get really good at injecting myself, and then I was done. So that was the big shakeup I had right before I went into surgery, was this potential that I could have a genetic clotting issue. So that's that. Something else I didn't mention, and in fact, if you saw my first episode, when I was in my workshop, I'm surprised I wasn't sniffing a little bit, because I had just gotten the back of my brain tickled with a cotton swab, or actually it was a plastic swab. I had to go for a COVID test, and I have to tell you, I don't know what they were digging for, but they pulled out a swab about that long, and they put in about that much of it, and of course they aimed through your nose, and they went in. Like I said, it felt like they were tickling the back of my brain. It wasn't terrible, but it just was. Let's put it that way. It was a pain in the rear, but of course you had to make sure that you were free of COVID before you could go into the hospital. Fast forward to the day of course I was in the hospital. I think we showed up about 6:30. I was in the hospital, checked in, ready to go shortly after 7 o'clock. They put the IV needle in the back of my left hand. Okay, I have to admit, I'm not scared of needles. I don't like them. I think we can all. I don't know anybody who likes needles, but it was sore, and I remember thinking, it's funny. It's sore now, but when I got done with surgery, boy, I had let's call it an entire 24-hour period in the hospital, and it was in my hand the whole time, and I never felt it. And then I realized, Joe, you're an idiot. You were so pumped up on painkillers, of course you didn't feel the dang IV. So, sorry, some of us are a little slower than others. But of course they got the IV inserted. Sat there with my wife. Of course I joked with the nurses. Not only am I an idiot, and my wife reminds me of that a lot, when I'm nervous, I make more jokes than I normally do. So, of course, they were asking me, Mr. Zimmerman, can you tell us, what are you here for today? And I'd say, I'm here for a vasectomy. And, they thought that was funny. So, and then I realized, wait a minute, I could really screw this up if I tease them too much. So, so we, got through that process. And, of course, I'd been asked about 4 times, what is your name? What is your date of birth? What are you here for? Don't get me wrong, this is all wonderful. We've all heard horrible stories about hospitals, amputating the wrong leg or something like that. So it's all good. But there's a part of you that has to go, how bad did it get that they're having to ask, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5 times, about, what are you here for today? What are you, what are we doing to you? Let's make sure we don't do the wrong thing. So, as we got close to about 8 o'clock, by the way, that was about my surgery time, 8 o'clock, my surgeon did not come in, but he sent in an assistant surgeon. Now, I don't know the dynamics. I can only assume this was not a PA. This was not a physician's assistant. This was a young surgeon. If I understand correctly, this was a young surgeon who has already been through medical school and residency, and now he's doing a specialization, if you will, in, I don't know, weight loss surgery or just gastrointestinal, whatever. Anyhow, long story short, there was another surgeon. In fact, I even met him at my follow-up meeting. Very, very wonderful young man. I can't remember his name. He told me about 3 times. I can't remember for the life of me what his name was. So, by the way, my surgeon was Jay Jan at the Legacy Weight and Diabetes Clinic in Portland, the Good Samaritan Hospital in Portland. Wonderful surgeon. I've never had a bad interaction with him. Wonderfully nice guy. I highly recommend him. So after I finished in the pre-op room, I obviously was wheeled down the hall, around the corner, down an elevator to the operating room. And I have to tell you, I remember having thoughts of how long can I wait before I can tell them, nope, I take it back, I don't want to do this. And that's not to say that I ever, wanted to not do it. I just thought about it. Let's put it that way. I think those thoughts are normal. All of us, kind of this, what am I doing here kind of emotion. And I remember having those thoughts. And in fact, I remember being wheeled into the operating theater, I guess they call it. And, and I looked to my side. I was laying in a bed, obviously. So I looked to my left side and they said, hey, this is, person A, B, and C. They said their name, Angela and Sally and whoever. And they're going to be, helping the doc. And doctors, I think I remember asking, where is Dr. Jan? And they said he's not here yet. But we're going to be taking care of you. And okay, everything's looking good. And hey, Joe, it's time to wake up. And I have to say that is how fast it was. I look over and I kind of gave a little friendly hello to these 2 or 3 nurses. I don't remember. There were some people, above my head. And again, I was laying down in a bed, so they're at my head. One of which, of course, was the anesthesiologist. I want to say the anesthesiologist was actually one of the people that took me from the pre-op room to the operating room. And I have to say, folks, as somebody who has never had a surgery before, it was a unique experience. I call it the warp zone because it was one moment I was, like I said, kind of half-heartedly waving at some nurses that were standing in a corner. And I think the anesthesiologist said something about, okay, I'm going to give you something to relax now. And an instant later, okay, Joe, we're all done. Wake up. And so that was the surgery experience. Like I said, kind of a unique experience to me because I've never been through surgery before, ever. Hopefully never again, after. I have to say about the recovery room, okay, this was also downstairs next door to the operating room. For me, I don't know about anybody else, it was the only time that I was in what I would call, I don't want to call it severe. I was in pain, let's put it that way. I don't know a lot about anesthesia and how it works on the body, but the way I would describe it to a person is that anesthesia, although it knocks you out, does not have any pain-killing qualities, I think. Okay, so as you're coming out of anesthesia, you're waking up more and more, and you're starting to realize that, holy cow, they just cut into me, and I'm in some pain. Okay, while you're coming out of anesthesia, they're trying to put more pain meds into your body. So there's this little valley, if you will, that you're coming out of anesthesia, you're in some not severe pain, but you're in some pain, and they haven't gotten enough painkillers into your body yet to counteract that. So for me, I found that there was about a 30 minute, maybe 45 minute window that I was actually in pain. That was it, 30 minutes. And in fact, I remember them asking me specifically, how bad is your pain? On a scale of 1 to 10. I called it a 6. It was good and sore. Let's put it this way. There was a period there, and by the way, if I can show you guys on my left side, just below my pectoral muscle, that's where all the pain was located. Right in here. And although I had other spots, all put a picture up here of what I looked like after surgery. You'll see all the trocar sites. That's the site that hurt, okay? Right in here, just below my left pectoral, okay? Well, immediately, the people in the emergency room, or excuse me, the recovery room, handed me 2 sausage-style ice bags. And they were the Tyvek type material, refillable ice bags, okay? And I found that those 2, and they tied them together with they have little tails on them. Those laid right here, and they laid there for more or less an entire day, for 24 hours. I'm jumping ahead here, by the way, but a couple hours later, some of the nurses said, some people like to alternate hot and cold. They brought me a heating pad, or a heating, one of those little chemical heating pads, I guess it is. Popped the thing, laid it down there. It stayed for about 10 minutes, and I chucked it. Well, I didn't chuck it. I put it on the table, went back to using the ice bags. The ice bags, for me, I could live there with those ice bags on there. And for about 24 hours, I did. They were there more than they weren't. And that was that was a real lifesaver for me. By the way, I'm taking a guess that is not a surprise to anybody working in the recovery room, but if you happen to go through this surgery and they offer you ice packs, oh God, at least from my perspective, take them and use them. So just so you guys know, so the day of my surgery, the surgery took place approximately 8 to 10 a.m., give or take, okay? I was in the recovery room for about another 30 minutes, and so by 10:30, I was up to my hospital room, if you will, okay? My private room. My wife was there, waiting for me. Can't remember if she did or did not leave for a while. She may have. But of course, as soon as I got up there, there was a good little bit of scrambling around by the nurses, and it was, do you need some pain meds? Okay, let's, try taking a sip of water. Let's do a little this. Let's do a little of that. And I have to admit, there's kind of a couple hours there that I let's just say are really foggy. Again, still coming out of anesthesia, things still happening without my knowledge. However, I do remember, let's call it about, if I got up to my room at 10:30, let's call it about 11:30, that they said, sometime soon here we'd like to see you stand. Is there a chance you need to use the bathroom? And I said, no, I'm fine. And then I thought about it, and I went, great. Now you mentioned the bathroom. Now I've got to go to the bathroom. And so I said, yeah, I changed my mind. Okay, let's try to use the bathroom. And so, like I said, I got out of surgery at 10 o'clock in the morning, and by 11:30 I was standing upright. I will say this. Again, you have to remember, hospital bed, the bed sits up to, about 45 degrees or so. But even still, the major amount of pain was not standing. Even, like I said, within hours of the surgery, standing was not an issue. Walking was really not even an issue. It was the moving from the bed to, trying to sit up on the edge of the bed. And then even just a little bit of bending forward, trying to get my weight over my feet so I could stand. Okay. By the way, that was much easier. Well, anyhow, let me just describe, if you will. The problem was I'm laying on a bed and I cannot sit straight up. I can't do a sit-up, if you will. So the idea was to swing my legs over the side, kind of roll over on my right side, and then push myself up sideways. Let's just say sore, pain level, was, by this time I'd already gotten plenty of pain meds in me. Pain level was about a 2 or a 3, and I'm saying 2 or 3 while I was trying to stand. That was the most pain I was in, really. Stood up, used a urinal, a little catch bottle urinal. Of course, they were pushing water they were wanting to see the first day, approximately, what we'll call the first day until midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning or so. They were looking for a half an ounce every 15 minutes. So, if you will, a half an ounce is just enough to wet the bottom of a glass, really, And I would religiously, take these. The problem with that was that I also had a lot of other things going on. I was kind of wanting to just, relax and close my eyes and not sleep per se, but just close my eyes and relax. And so they had a checklist beside the bed. My wife kind of took the role of doing the little checkoff boxes, and it was actually marked every 15 minutes. At 12:15, did he drink a half an ounce, and at 12:30 did he drink a half an ounce, and at 12:45. And looking back on it, it was actually kind of silly because, these would be checked for a while, and then I'd fall asleep for an hour, and they'd be blank, and then checked for, all the while, I had an IV in my hand. So I have a firm belief, folks, that the concern was it had nothing to do with being hydrated. Like I said, the IV was handling the hydration. We were simply trying to push water through, a new surgery site in my stomach. So, within, oh God, if I was up in the room by 11, by 10:45, let's say, shortly after noon, they were already, offering me protein drink instead of water, which was nice. But yeah, they brought me some vanilla flavored protein drink, and that went down fine. I obviously didn't finish it because I wasn't drinking that much fluid at one time. I have to say that if you guys have ever heard anything at all about the sleeve gastrectomy surgery, the big thing I can tell you is it definitely changes the way that hunger acts on your body. Okay? And boy, could I tell that from the very beginning. Now, of course, you've just had surgery on your stomach, and I made a joke in the last video about still waiting for my burger and fries. Folks, you could have put a burger and fries in front of me and I wouldn't have even wanted it. So that was one thing I noticed is really even water was not really something I desired. I really just wanted to kind of just close my eyes and relax. And I was just drinking the water. Okay, don't take this for the way that it sounds, but I was really just drinking the water to please the people that told me to drink water. So anyhow, did get a restless night's sleep that evening. My wife stayed with me, by the way, all the way until about 5:30, 6 o'clock that night. She knew that there wasn't, really there was nothing to do. She was just going to sit there and read her book. I was going to sit there and try to close my eyes and sleep. And so about 5 o'clock or so, she decided she's going to go home, sleep at home in the bed, and come back, get me the next day. Had kind of a restless night of sleep, as you might expect coming out of surgery. I do want to admit something, and I hope you guys won't hate me for saying this. I have a CPAP machine, or had a CPAP machine. I had gone through a sleep study a couple of years ago, and maybe I'll even do a video about my CPAP experience. And by the way, I know people who their CPAP was, let's just say, a life-changing thing for them. All of a sudden they were able to sleep at night. They got way more rest. It was like my coworker described it as flipping a switch, where all of a sudden he says, I had energy that I didn't have before. That didn't happen to me. Okay. For one thing, my sleep apnea doctor described me as a self-medicator. And what I mean by that is I am a stomach sleeper. Now, I apologize. Some of you may say that that's just weird. Well, I think that everybody who sleeps on their back is weird, because I don't sleep on my back. I sleep on my stomach. And so For better or worse, that night in the hospital was the last night I ever used my CPAP machine. And I only used it because the doctor said I had to. And now I did have a minor issue. I have a pretty slow respiratory rate. I think, maybe. Anyhow, they had the little oxygen sensor on my fingertip, and I would, just relax and breathe slowly. Well, the stupid oxygen sensor would go down to, I think they had it set at like 96%, and so I'd take a deep breath and it'd go to 99, and then 98, 97, 96, and then beep, 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 beep. This little monitor would say that my blood oxygen was dipping. I'd take a big breath and it'd go up to 99 again. So they decided that they said, do you want to sleep? And I was like, well, I've been trying to, rest here ever since my surgery, but yeah, I guess I'd like to sleep. So they pulled out all of my CPAP and hooked the hose up, and then they had a little adapter thing that injected oxygen into my CPAP. So now I'm breathing not just my CPAP, but my CPAP plus extra oxygen. That's fine. I put it on my head, left it there for about 2.5 hours, and I think I pulled it off and shut it off and continued to sleep on and off the rest of the night. I think I used it for like a total of about 2.5 or 3 hours total. and then, like I said, maybe I'm a terrible person, but I went home and in fact, if I went up to my bedroom right now, in my closet is my duffel bag that I took to the hospital, and my CPAP is still in the duffel bag. So, sorry guys. About the time that my wife left, about 5:30, there was another, request. Hey, do you want to get up and use the bathroom again? And I was like, there you go. You mentioned bathroom. Now I have to pee again. Okay, great. And they said, hey, if we got you up, do you want to go for a walk? Sure. Now, I've got to tell you guys, having stood previously, and by the way, the first time I used the bathroom, stood up, peed, laid back down, no big deal. They said, do you think you can walk? And I'm like, I know I can walk. Yes, I can. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, must have been about 5:30 in the evening. Got up, used the little urinal cup, and then they said, hey, let's make sure you're all covered up. Let's go out in the hallway, and one of the nurses is going to walk with you. Fine, whatever. Went out for a little stroll. I think I made one lap, and she looked at me and she goes, you're doing pretty good. You want to make another? Yeah, let's make another. Heck, I could have made 3 or 4. I've got to be honest. Once I was up, even though it was within hours of the surgery, don't get me wrong, I definitely wasn't ready to run a marathon, but if they had even asked for 3, 4, 5 laps, I could have done that really easy. But of course, really what I was looking for was just kind of to rest. So yeah, made a couple of laps. I guess all I'm trying to say is just be prepared to, they want to see you up and moving. Let me see. Got to the morning time. They offered me yogurt. If you guys saw my first video, the yogurt tasted so good. It was just something different, after drinking nothing but protein shake and water for approaching 24 hours. The fact that I had something not solid, but something more than just liquid, liquid, if you will. Okay. The yogurt tasted great. Let me see what else. Water intake went up to 1 ounce per 15 minutes. Okay, so or 4 ounces per hour, and so they wanted me to drink a little bit more water. By the way, same thing as before. It was hit or miss whether I made the goal or not. I'd make it, I'd make the goal for an hour, and then I'd miss an hour, and then I'd make it for an hour and a half, and then miss an hour. One of the things that happens to be the situation at my house here is we have a 2-story house, okay? Upstairs, downstairs. And so as morning came around, they were already starting to talk about, well, you'll probably see your doctor today. He'll want to take a look at your incision sites, and then he'll release you and you can go home. By the way, this was, ever since I began talking to the doctor, they'd always said, as a rule, we'll do surgery one day, you'll spend the night, and you'll go home approximately 10 to noon, or maybe as late as 3 or 4 in the afternoon the next day. No problem. I had made at least 2, and I think actually 3 walking trips. Like I said, I made the first one about 5 o'clock the first day, made another one in the middle of the night, and I think, by the time my wife was there the second day, I was, going for my third set of laps, not my third lap, but my third set of laps around the hallways and stuff. And anyhow, I mentioned to somebody, I go, you know what, I'd like to try some stairs, just because, I'd like to know if I go home and I have to just live in the downstairs, living room, if you will, no problem. That's not an issue. But I think I can climb stairs. I'd just like to try before I, go home. And I'm thinking, by the way, there's elevators all around this hospital. And if you know anything about, elevators, by law, there has to be a stairwell next to the elevator, okay, in case of fire. And so I'm like, guys, just take me to the nearest elevator, and I just want to go up 3 stairs and down 3 stairs, or, up a flight of stairs and down a flight of stairs, and I just want to try it. That's all. Well, little did I know, I opened a bag of worms there, guys. Next thing you know is there's making all these arrangements. They said, oh, there's a physical therapy, on this floor is a physical therapy room. We're trying to get access to that room because we have the actual physical therapy stairs. And if you've ever seen them, they're like 3 normal stairs up one side, and then like 3, shallow stairs, or like four shallow stairs down the other side. And I'm going, guys, I just wanted to go into a hallway and just step up a couple of stairs and just see how that, raising my legs, stepping up, stepping down. Boy, they made all sorts of arrangements and stuff, and I was going, guys, I didn't plan to make this big of an event out of it. But guess what? No problem. Up the stairs, down the stairs. I made one pass through. It took me about 3 seconds, and we were done. And I said, okay, send me home. So I got released from the hospital at some time. Let's call it roughly 11:30, maybe noon. And I don't remember exactly why or how, they picked that time. But I do remember that it had to do with the fact that the doctor had to see me. I quite possibly, and I honestly feel, I could have been released as early as, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. However, I remember we had to stay around because the doctor had to see me before I left. Okay. And so once I saw him, there was some more paperwork to do, and then, okay, you're released. Like I said, about 11:30. Got home, and then let's just say the arduous journey began. And that was just not 10 days, I guess. By that time, it would be 9 days of just waiting and convalescing. Okay. As you guys saw in my first video, if you saw my first video, the convalescing was quite easy, really. Nothing major went on. I just had to remember to take my pills every day. The anti-blood clotting shots were kind of the hardest part. I know that some people have a difficulty taking pills because of the, if a pill is large size and doesn't go down well, especially with a big gulp of water, that can be an issue. I didn't have any problem with them. In fact, I broke a couple of pills up for the first 2 days, and after that, I've never done that since. So pills have not been an issue at all ever since the surgery, really. So I have to admit, the worst part I found with the convalescing period was about my food offerings, or what I had to eat and drink. And not that I had a difficulty with the liquid diet. As I mentioned in my first video, I didn't really have a lot of desire to eat or drink. However, really I was limited to a handful of things. There was obviously water, which I always kept a glass of water next to me. And then I had protein drinks, milk, yogurt, and liquid soups. So things like butternut squash soup or tomato soup. And that was it. That's kind of what I lived on for the first, first 14 days. And if I had to do it again, I would definitely look into other offerings that, that meet those criteria of, high protein, low carbohydrate, low salt, liquid offerings. Maybe I missed out and could have had some other wonderful things, but it kept me going. But I have to admit, that was the arduous part, was just not having a lot of choices. It's like, well, I guess I'll have more butternut squash soup like I had for breakfast. So anyhow, I do want to mention, and Dr. Jan, please forgive me. So I got to about day number 4 after surgery. And like I just said, after days of eating the same thing day after day, I was craving something. Now, I can't say I was craving something, from hunger. That's not it. I was just, shall we say, craving something different. And so I made a decision, and for better or worse, I'll stand by this decision. I made some scrambled eggs. Now, we're not talking hard scrambled eggs. I have a trick, and I'll share this trick with you guys. Either, whisk up some scrambled eggs with milk, or in my case, I used coffee creamer. And so I put a little coffee creamer in these 2 eggs, whisked them up real nice, got a nice hot pan, rolled them in there, whisked them up in the pan, and made these amazing, super soft, hard boiled, or scrambled eggs. Okay, not to mention they were vanilla flavored, which was wonderful. Anyhow, so it was 2 scrambled eggs with a little creamer and nothing else. No salt, no pepper, no cheese, no nothing. Okay. First of all, they were extra soft and they went down great. They tasted wonderful. As something different, and that's really all I'm trying to get at, folks, is it was just something different. I had to break up the monotony. And then the third thing is, I finally realized how small my stomach or my portions were going to be, because I made 2 scrambled eggs, and it took me at least 2 hours to consume all of that. In fact, I ate probably half of it and had to just completely stop because my stomach was starting to hurt. Okay, not hurt excruciatingly bad, not hurt like I'm busting staples or anything like that, but it started to ache. Okay. One of the other things that I ran into during like I said, what I'm calling the convalescing period, was that the doctor had sent me home with a number of prescriptions. Okay, I had a prescription for obviously the blood clotting issue, so I had injectable shots. I also had a prescription for omeprazole. Now, by the way, my doctor mentioned to me that he always prescribed Pepcid. Well, in conversation, I happened to mention to him that, hey, what do you think of omeprazole? Because, and that's, by the way, the generic for Prilosec, I believe. And I said, hey, I have experience with omeprazole, and it has worked really well for me in the past. And so he was pretty quick to say, sure. He says, I usually always give everybody Pepcid, but if you've used omeprazole, go right ahead. And so he gave me a prescription for omeprazole. By the way, folks, I cannot give advice one way or the other. First of all, not a doctor. Okay, but second of all, I don't have any experience with Pepcid. Pepcid may work just great for me too, but I've been having great luck with the omeprazole. So I was on that. But then he also sent me home with a prescription for an anti-nausea medication. And I have to tell you, I actually had the directions a little incorrect there. Because let's call it the first 3 days, I was taking the anti-nausea medication. I'd take my pills, and the anti-nausea medication was this tiny little pill that I could just, more or less chew it, or I'd put it on my tongue and just dissolve on my tongue. And, I was taking that about every 12 hours. And, looking back on it, you can ask me, well, were you nauseous? Nope, wasn't nauseous at all. And I got to about day 4, I think it was. This would have been, okay, so my surgery was on a Thursday. This would have been Monday the next week, because the physician's assistant called me and just called to check in. How are you doing? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, how are you doing with your medication? I said, great. She goes, how's the nausea? I said, oh, fine. Besides, I'm staying well ahead on the nausea medication. And her response was, why? And I said, well, what do you mean, why? You sent me home with nausea medication. She goes, yeah, you're supposed to take it if you're nauseous. I said, oh, well, I've just been taking it. And she goes, oh, you're fine. It's not going to hurt anything, but that's not what we really intended it to be used for. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, you guys didn't describe that really well. I mentioned in my first video about pain medication that really after about day number 4, I was already off of, or day number 3, day number 4 or so, I was pretty well off of pain medication. Sort of. Okay. First of all, I did, when I was, sitting in my chair, I was in no pain whatsoever. And so I switched to just using Advil Tylenol. However, if you guys remember just a few minutes ago, I mentioned that I am an avid stomach sleeper. And so what I found was that I actually went back on the pain medication in the evenings. And what I would do is I'd take usually just one, I'd take a Celebrex and a oxycodone, and really I would just take them for pain, and then I would go back to sleeping on my stomach. By the way, you can ask, was that excruciatingly painful? No, just a little. It was a little sore to sleep on my stomach. Now, keep in mind, my belly was a lot bigger back then, but shoot, I'd been sleeping on my stomach my whole life, and so it didn't bother me. The pain that I was feeling really had to do with my abdominal muscles, and so even laying on my stomach was not an issue. It was really when I had to tighten my abdominals. In fact, I can tell you this, just like getting out of my chair in the living room, if I had to sit up in bed, and in fact, I remember I could nearly do not a push-up, you know what I mean, with my hips laying on the bed, I could push my body away from the bed, and that was not painful at all. It was when I turned and kicked my legs over the side and had to sit upright into the bed, onto the edge of the bed. That's when it hurt. And again, excruciatingly, nope, not at all. Just sore. Just you could definitely tell that you'd been stabbed through the abdominal muscles. I'm joking, of course. They didn't stab me. So yeah, I did go back on some pain meds to sleep at night. And of course, actually, I had problems sleeping at night because I was home all day and I'd sleep all day too. So there was a period there that I only slept in my bed at night for about 4 or 5 hours. That's because I'd come downstairs and then sleep for 3 hours in my recliner. So I did have an experience as I was getting towards the end of my convalescing period. I want to call it probably day 7 or day 8, where I went into the kitchen to find something to eat or drink, and I decided that some cold milk sounded really good. So I grabbed a coffee cup out of the cupboard, filled it half full with milk out of the refrigerator, put the milk back. I remember grabbing the coffee cup and I upended the coffee cup. It took 3 big glugs, glug, 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 and then it dawned on me. You idiot, what are you doing? You don't have that large of stomach anymore. And so instantly I was met with this. And folks, I got to tell you, I would not describe it as a pain. It is a discomfort, okay? And if you have a sleeve gastrectomy, you will understand this discomfort of being uncomfortably full, okay? And by the way, if you have not heard, it is possible to make yourself actually puke, by eating too much. But for a moment, for a period, there is this sensation of, please go down, please go down, please go down. Luckily, and I don't know if I'm, unique this way. I don't think I am. Liquids are usually pretty safe because liquids, can go down through the stomach and into the small intestine pretty quickly. By the way, I will have a whole nother video about eating after surgery. And just a spoiler for you, it has a lot to do with textures. I find especially potato products are terrible about like bridging up and stuff. Okay, but being liquid, that milk, even still, I definitely was uncomfortable of having drank too much too fast. And so there was a very brief period of, oh, please don't make me throw up. And so it went down and everything was okay. But it's funny that within days I had actually, for lack of a better term, I had forgotten that I had had a surgery. So I do want to mention that hunger sensation was incredible, the change. And again, I hope I'm not misleading anybody, and because this is my experience and not anybody else's. But it is amazing that the instant that I came out of surgery, hunger sensation has changed. Let's just say it's a night and day difference. Okay. By the way, I promise, folks, I want to do another video, and maybe it'll be the very next video I do, about how that hunger change, or that hunger sensation did change. But just know that was the entire time I went through the liquid diet phase, which, by the way, for me was 2 weeks. The surgeon wanted 2 weeks of liquid diet, followed by 2 weeks of soft food only diet, and then 4 weeks after that I was allowed to go back to a limited solid food diet. And yeah, like I said, I'll make a complete other video with that. So with that, guys, that kind of sums it up. And I'm sorry if this is a bit long, but like I said, I wanted to kind of hit on the little spots that I didn't hit with the last video, the ins and the outs, the things that I didn't mention. If you have an idea for a video you'd like me to talk about, leave a comment down below. Please give me a like and subscribe if you could, because I'd like to continue these and yeah, push them out for information for other folks looking at weight loss surgery as a possibility. Thanks a lot, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.